What matters? Who matters? What stories we tell to tell other stories with?
What we're actually doing is creating the conditions so people can feel secure enough or safe enough to heal, to find love and find connection.
To push this idea and to boost ideas.
Love is the only antidote, and unity the only answer to fear.
It really struck me that some things can move you deeply in a way that goes beyond words. I am the person, by the way, who removes all the title from the badges. If someone puts their title there, I remove it because I like the idea that we start at the conference all from the same level, that we are all together, that everyone has the same value in terms of the ideas that they are bringing there.
You need to find a group that's very supportive.
It's people's willingness and joy to participate.
Nurturing and enrapturing thoughts towards what may be possible.
It's the first time that I envisioned a world where they could actually work together and not as two parallel streams that happen together.
I think there is something very special that gets captured when people come from different parts of the world. They come from different disciplines and they just love talking to each other. And one of the best things that I always point to others when I think of the conference is the questions. Sometimes we go to academic conferences and a person finishes presenting. There is no question. They move on. And for our events and for possibility studies, there is a sea of hands normally, and there is constructive conversation around these topics. You know, nobody wants to make an ego-related point. Everybody tries to be helpful, and new things come about.
Choreographies of possibility. What matters? What matters? It matters what matters. We used to think other matters with. It matters what stories we tell to tell other stories with. It matters what stories make worlds. What worlds make stories, and there will be many stories told. And this is a land of storytelling. But this conference always manifests many shared connections and stories.
Well, I think that Vlad and Constance and Wendy are really creating a community of possibility here with this conference, and that's the best possible kind of iteration or instantiation of conferences in my experience in the academy. Is really ground up, creating community around shared values, shared areas of interest. And one of the things that I think is so strong about this conference, I've been totally blown away by, is the number of sort of inherently transdisciplinary papers and conversations that are going on. You know, it's hard to really do truly transdisciplinary work, and there's heaps of it here at Possibility Studies Network.
I really like that idea. I think it's the idea of interacting with other individuals from so many different disciplines. You could be talking to architects, you could be talking to lecturers, you could be talking to engineers, designers, from all walks of life. And I think that interdisciplinary space actually brings great value.
How do we give endless possibilities to the communities that we work with and for?
How can we design spaces which give us more time as a species, but as a species within the context of the wider ecologies that we live in? And for me, it's how can design be a part of that in creating those possibilities, a higher quantity of futures in which we hopefully as a species coexist and live with a higher quality of life.
So it's like a family coming together, having a reunion. People are out there working together, thinking together, researching together, and making a difference together. And when you bring those activists, inactivists, those champions for change together, the space changes. It is a play space, a play space where you reconnect with the child within you, and you reconnect with all the sort of values that you hold firm and that drive you.
So the idea was for everyone coming from these different topics to have a place where they could come together. I think so that was the core idea of communities there.
Sharing energies can connect sort of waves that we all represent, and the wavelength and the frequency of our sharing of ideas emit this energy that is collaboration for me.
Community building is the milestone to promote mental health and well-being, but also collaboration. The word possibility in ourselves is associated with innovation, with creativity, with novelty, improvisation.
We build a community. We are kind of a community, but a lot of the people who participate, they reflect on communities. They want to build communities in turn. They support people coming together. So I think it was kind of a meta reflection on what we do in many ways, and it placed also the topic of possibility at the heart of community building.
There's been a beautiful sense of cross-pollination here from absolute leaders of the field and senior academics who are so generous and open-hearted, a super friendly environment, and really extending that generosity to new and younger and maybe mid-career scholars and attendees. And I just think that is the sustainable way, the true way of growing communities of practice that are nurturing, that are innovative, and will be sustained long beyond individual personalities.
It has planted the seed of maybe at some point seeing my personal creative practice and my academic practice finally meet. That was the first time where I could foresee a future where I make them both work together. I think I have two seeds that were planted at the conference. One in me and one that we planted all together within the community.
We were all about trees. So trees produce seeds, and we had the baobab of awe, and we have like magnolia of imagination. So I feel everything can put in a bit of a seed and grow a root. In me personally, because I think many things grew, but one of the things is this idea that we can do, something meaningful in the real world, which we're all part of, and the conference is very real in that sense. But there is something that we can do beyond even these meetings we have.
The story of my life is people outside of my home, pockets of sunshine, who placed a light in my chest that made it possible for me to survive, for me to be good, for me to do better, to stay alive. Tell people they can, and tell them often. Every single thing I've ever achieved is because someone has had to grab me and tell me that I can. You can.
The seed I take away that will be nurtured across the year and across the rest of my life will be the mantra, the message, the manifesto of Katrina O'Sullivan, the keynote today. And it was, I can. I can.
The possible, I believe, is born from a spark. So a burning ember that derives from within, often instigated from without. So the ember must be stoked, fostered and cultivated to burn brightly and ignite strongly.
For me, it's like a real, true experience of what I would like to keep on developing, like art space, collaborative research, reflecting through arts, making sense together.
So Jamie Paolinetti, where he says, limitations live only in our minds, but if we use our imaginations, our possibilities become limitless.
Transing might show us how to move as a state of adaptation, evolution, becoming, rather than arriving. We're here. We will always be here. This is our victory. This is our pact. Just us. to trans this nightmare from just is to justice. With love and more love and always more love.
Playfulness has to be the center. Guys, you can have fun every single day of your life.
This conference planted more than a seed. It's an urge to act, because it's that urge to do something with what I can offer to the world, with my hands, with my imagination, with my creativity. And it is through action that we learn. Just like we cannot explain to a child how to walk, the child has to learn to walk by walking. And I think it's that. We cannot fly by flying. We have to learn first. And the learning comes from action. So to start taking action now.
That seed could be planted and keep on growing and see where it goes.
I'm definitely taking home the possibility of really working in this direction that for me so far has been a very, how can I say, a big risk. And with this conference, I'm discovering that this risk is worth taking.
A gardener plants a seed, but he doesn't dig that up for the sake of finding out whether those plants are growing. So as we nurture ourselves, we can nurture our community and we can nurture our society.
Every part of your work contributes to change. Whether it's working with a student, writing a paper, having a conversation, your work doesn't exist just in the lab. It exists here in me, in the little girl that I was. Like, she's here. She's standing next to me now, smiling, knowing that the world is a better place, understanding that there's opportunities, feeling like she's valuable. All of that is because people like you used your privilege to make me possible. So thank you.
Silence equals what these days? It still equals death. What is there left to say when people die and rights roll back and everything now and always was retractable?
In a world full of metrics and indicators of success, sometimes we forget the most important piece of this work. The most important piece of this work is connection. How do we make a person feel about themselves?
What are the stories you're going to tell? The story of your research, the story of your life, the story of the pain you've felt that's given you the fire in the belly to pursue a life researching X.
We talk a lot about dialogue in our community, which we love, and this idea of multiple voices coming together.
We ask somebody to tell us a story, and then we ask 5 other writers and drawing what this oral story generates in their brains. There's not 2 among these that will draw the same thing. And it's the same bloody source.
People come together and picture different scenarios or how we can move forward without any restraints. We can dream, we can visualize different solutions together.
How are we being influenced? What is our positionality from these wider influences? A recognition, especially in communities that are very marginalized, communities that have been colonized or oppressed in some way, that those narratives don't have to be what actually defines them going forward.
The whole village is coming to us to just listen to the stories.
But as soon as we start opening up ourselves to the immensity of what we don't know, that's when we can walk along to a future that's worth living.
We're living in a world of materialism that follow rules and measurements. And if we follow those, we end up building things that already exist. Indeed, if we go on that quantum world full of real possibilities, probable possibilities, we just take a quantum leap and we truly explore what is not known.
So unravel and throw. Woo! Wow! Oh, that's a lovely knot. Leave the knot, leave the knot. That is so special. There it is, complication.
there is something very interesting in the relation between possibility and habits, that in many ways habits are the worst enemy of possibility. We keep on doing things the way we've done them forever because it's a habit and it's easier to stay within the beaten path. But at the same time, the only way to really engage with the possible is to make it a habit, is to really to have that thing that is an effort at first to try to think of how things could be different and what are the other things that are possible. Once you start doing this regularly, then it becomes kind of effortless. So there is this kind of tension that we try also to navigate when we build the program and when we build the events, where it's important to have some things that are recurrent and that always happen in the same way, because it's exhausting for everyone. If everything gets thrown in the air all the time, that we all get lost. So we need to have a little bit of this regularity, but to always at the same time completely shake things up and make something different. So I guess there as well, there is a tension or friction that you always need to navigate.
Yeah, the habit of possibility, because habits shouldn't necessarily be so stuck, but it becomes a second nature to question, to doubt, to ask yourself, to change. But you need the scaffolding. So it's always this compromise, back and forth, and dialogue. Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why belief in yourself isn't enough to make anything possible. And we need to be really careful of statements like this that say that the possibility is located or is a property of the person. I'm going to talk about the sort of fundamental underlying assumption in this, that anything being possible is good. And I think it's something that we really need to think about as a discipline. Is infinite possibilities the right thing to do? Is this the sort of way that we need to be moving forward?
Reducing these magnificent bodies to such simple beginning, middle, and endness is to doom ourselves to repeating mistakes. Our naive addiction to endlessly starting again and again and again. I mean, why would a feeling, a movement, a discipline, for that matter, ever be over? Why deny the recycled nature of energy, light, all forms of life, living endlessly through reformation, rearticulation, and reassembly?
The biggest tension is some kind of conservatory aspect of the academia, which struggles to go beyond its own borders. And I think this is a very, very big problem, because academia, universities need to talk and engage with what is outside to draw more interest in what's happening like inside the academia.
And of course, orally, you cannot tell the story twice the same way. That's the good thing. As opposed to the written thing where copy and paste is the big trouble.
I think it would be nice to introduce a bit of friction, actually. I think that in disagreements, there is a lot of great ideas that can be born.
Choice is a myth inflicted on poor people by people in power. It has the perfect outcome. It makes us feel responsible for our failings and takes responsibility away from the people who have privilege and power. Not only are you underserved and you feel bad about yourself every day, but you feel like you did that. You failed.
I think to imagine different kinds of futures requires different kinds of mindset shifting in the present. In the current political climate, I've become a bit cynical about the very notion of futures, because I feel that in so many recurring times of strife and global insecurity, it's almost easy to abandon a focus on the difficulties of the moment and focus instead on futures and hopeful futures and how it's going to be better someday.
I suppose there's a lot of fear around change. There's a lot of fear about possible, especially from my space within a teaching context, and especially a very exam-based curriculum, I think, really, or specification. Teachers might be frightened or afraid maybe to step into the world of the possible or, creative elements, really, because they don't know how it's going to turn out.
There's a very famous writer that in a workshop with us, it was years ago, he was like, I'm not going to draw. This is not my job. I'm sorry, it's not my job. I'm a writer. And the funny thing, the same guy, the last day of the workshop, he was like, "Guy, it's a revolution for my head. It's crazy."
It's hard to try new stuff, and it's hard to fail at stuff, and it's hard to bring people on that route and say, let's just try. You know, like we're giving a workshop here, and there's nobody that's going to die at the end. Even then, we're also set and, you know, following the rules and making sure that we're doing good. And I don't know, I think that, you know, a little bit of punkness, I think.
I think there's a value in saying to people, actually, it's not in your mind where you need to be moving forward. It's in the body and in the material world around you. We're not romanticizing the possible. I love imagination, but imagination can only take us so far. I love the idea of infinite possibilities, but we need to be aware of the limits of those, and I think we need to introduce friction into the way that we interact with the world. And to do that, we need to have a resomatization. So this is a call for resomatization, a rematerialization of the things that we're doing.
The infinite us that once seemed enlightening, we all emerged, all of us, from infinite possibility. Queer is really just versatility. So, transing this nighttime of hate, I tell you, we have been here before. We know what to do.
Realising that we've had theories of inequality for hundreds of years. Bordeaux, cultural capital, social capital, name it. We've been talking about this shit for years, and we know how to solve it, but we don't.
Gilbert Sage and Sapp and Tauber argued that all organisms are like lichens. I love this. The symbiotic merger of a fungus and photosynthetic bacteria or algae. In a piece called The Queerness of Lichens, chemistry scholar David Griffith extended their claim to say, we have never been individuals. The queer multiplicity of life goes about cobbling itself together, producing and reproducing organisms and ecological relationships.
Complementing this is the confidence to act, or the responsibility or the agency that you think, I'm part of this multiple world. Because I think people can be aware of possibilities but not fully explore them for a variety of reasons. Another impetus of our community is to make people feel I'm part of that story that can be narrated differently. And if I'm part of that story, what does it mean for what I will do next, or how I think, or how I engage? I think building that confidence, awareness, exploration, and excitement is just the whole formula. This idea that I want new things to happen, it's a privilege, it's a joy to experience.
If we can find a way to combine a screenwriter that did a PhD in astrophysics and another one that used to be a psychoanalyst, it's great. You know, like combining metaphors that are completely different. And so that it's a dialogue between them, you know, so that it's never, this is the truth, this is what you have to write. It has to be, maybe look through the window, you can open something. Maybe through the chimney.
The place where we can find this kind of threshold between being and becoming is in humility.
Understanding and knowing that we don't have the answers to everything on our own, but potentially as part of a wider community, as part of a collective of people, we can come up with some good solutions. And having the humility to kind of go, like, hold your hands up, I don't know the answer.
It's now, I think, a time where speaking truth to power, speaking from multiple perspectives, with voicing change, voicing the multiplicity of views that are out there.
This was growing up through a primary curriculum, a secondary curriculum, and a third level education, where creativity was limited and it felt quite under-nurtured. And I felt I just didn't have the training for this because it's such a complex and multifaceted phenomenon. So I felt that I needed to engage with creative practice and learning about creative practice so that I could actually be an effective teacher in the classroom, so that my students could learn about creativity and innovation in an effective and fun way.
When you're dealing with children or adults who grew up poor, you can assume trauma as well. And what you need to do is educate yourself on that. Not assume that people can adapt to you. Adapt to them. Educate yourself. Educating yourself on what poverty looks like in work or in school, in relationships, will help create the conditions for people to heal. Our job is to adjust ourselves to people who are hurt, not to expect them to adapt to our warped expectations of what normality is.
Survivors of trauma know there is no after. Not really. But are we taking notice? Transing, they said, like gender itself, is a relational process. A rehearsal for possibility in the present. Transing might show us how to move without arriving. To rediscover our collectivity rather than our otherness. We are always in relationship with the other organisms with whom we coexist at all scales.
We have 3 conferences in person under the belt. We have this journal that has been coming, we have the seminars. It's something almost tangible in the people and the network and the relationship. So we can more confidently refer to possibility studies as something. And I think our members and the community does that as well. So there is the one part. And the other one is kind of decentralizing a little bit in terms of theories, but also geographical locations. Having other people take and build and kind of take it to new places. That's the movement that I see with these events. Yeah.
When the body is in movement in space, it accelerates the rate of new synaptic connections.
I feel we are starting to lay the foundation of making room for the next generation of researchers, and that we are starting to have more and more initiative and things. And we had this young support team that was very, they were amazing. Like they really made the conference what it was, and they really, you can see their enthusiasm and how it's going to build for the future with our early career awards. Like the idea is really to have these people who are starting their academic career really feel empowered to do something with the network. So that's a wonderful community seed, and I feel that the attitude of the community is really participating to watering that seed, because I've seen them be encouraged by so many different people, and I haven't seen at the conference any of these hierarchical interactions you sometimes see in conference. I haven't had a single interaction where I felt someone who has treated someone as a mere student or something like this.
And so the good thing is that the new generation is so much into collaboration that we don't have to tell them how beautiful it is to work together and to not to do everybody the same thing, to be each of us the guardian that each in the group is going to go as far as possible in its own singularity and strengths.
And the chorus, you went into the rushes of my open arms, 'cause we've all grown out of the same deep roots, whoever you are. And even when the hand of winter grits your heart, you carry the spark of spring. No matter who you are.
Is we always have to have an eye to the future. It's where we're moving. We want to move intentionally. But at the same time, knowing that if we don't do the work now, and that begins with mindset shifting, then we won't get to those possible futures, those better futures. It'll just be a replication of the same. So it all begins and gets embodied at gatherings like this, where we really push each other to think outside of our own, areas of expertise, areas of comfort.
We hope to actually not just trouble everything, but find ways to make change, to create change, to have future-making education, not preparing education for the future.
Education, compulsory education, teacher education, by and large, no matter where you go in the world, is a deeply conservative and slow-moving beast.
Allow teachers themselves to be free, to engage with creativity and embracing the possible.
It's not entertainment, despite what Hollywood says. It's fucking essential. We need it to just live, to breathe. We need stories. Otherwise we die.
So why not extend a hand to invite multiple possibilities into the education sphere through employing creative pedagogy and seeing where it may take the learners of today and tomorrow? What challenges may we face? What conflicts are we going to come up against?
But there's something about being in the presence of a human being who believes in you. Irrespective of how you act, it goes from being in them to being in you. It's like osmosis.
Think of us like those Bronze Age drawings to be found 5,000 years from now by some tender young outlier hoping against hope for love in a new evil empire. Surrounded again by danger, uncertain of strangers, hoping just for a sign. Something to say to them, we never stopped. You are enough. Love, still here. Queerly writing the world in its orbit, the wind in its song forever, however long it takes to make us truly great again.
We can all be the light. As adults, for children and for each other. Always believe in a person's capability. Be the light.